to the men who are into BDSM and things of that nature, to the men who are into experimenting, to the men who've been involved in devil's threesomes, to the men who don't document consent in one way or another, you're walking a very dangerous path. Nowadays, they're turning rape, sexual assault, and assault into jokes. Today, these things that are supposed to be so heinous, so serious, these things are now being thrown around like they're jokes.
This is Shannon Sharpe, ex-football player, very popular podcast commentator, and he also has a problem. See, Shannon Sharpe was just accused of forcing someone to watch Netflix with him. If you don't know what that means, look in the comments. Now, to make matters worse for Shannon, that same person is suing him for $50 million. But it just keeps getting worse for Shannon Sharpe because the person that's suing him's lawyer, we're going to call the person that's suing him G. So G's lawyer, his name is Tony Buzbee. That's not good, because Tony Buzbee is famously all about the dollars. Shannon said, I got good news, I got bad news. Good news is, I got a client named G, she wants to sue you. Shannon said, then what's the bad news? Tony said, oh no, it's the same news, it's just good for me and bad for you. Now, I need you to listen closely. Tony having this conversation with Shannon happened before the news came to light. And celebrities obviously don't want this type of information to come out. True, not true, don't matter. You look bad, your dollars start to dwindle. So Tony basically telling Shannon, make us an offer and maybe everybody doesn't have to hear about this. Shannon did not make the right offer. Shannon allegedly offers $10 million. Clearly wasn't enough because Tony tells the world G is suing Shannon Sharpe because he forced her to watch Netflix. And here's where things start to get wicked. Shannon Sharpe comes out and says, cap, almost immediately. And an all-out war begins. See, the battle of public opinion nowadays is almost as important as the legal battle itself. What you think about Shannon Sharpe matters. If everyone thinks he did it, his career's over. So now you're the jury, and now you start hearing facts. Tony tells you, by the way, everybody, there was a 30-year age gap. I just thought you should know. Girl was like 19, Shannon was around 50. Heads up. Shannon says, okay, well, first of all, Tony Buzbee trying to blackmail me. Heads up. Second of all, the relationship between me and G was consensual. Tony says, okay, but as soon as the relationship stopped being consensual and she says stop, you kept going. More specifically, Shannon would get verbally abusive. He knew where her house was. And while Shannon and G were watching Netflix together one time, she told him, look, you gotta stop. He did not stop. Shannon says lies. And by the way, her name is... He drops her real name, which I don't think you're supposed to do. She tried to file this lawsuit anonymously. Shannon said, anyway, here are the texts that she sent me and here are the texts that I sent her. He drops pages of texts that they sent between each other, basically trying to show that they had a consensual relationship and some of their Netflix watching was rough. Now, I'm not going to get into the specifics of these messages, but boy, let me tell you, one of them read. Let me just tell you one. It said, hey, Shannon, you know I charge $25K for each cheek. Shannon with it. He said, hell yeah. Matter of fact, let me tell you another one. It said, Shannon, boy, here, let me just write it in the notes app for you. Okay. Shannon said,
The lawsuit that was filed over the weekend against Hall of Fame tight end and media personality Shannon Sharpe has been one of the biggest stories for anyone who follows the NFL. Everybody knows who Shannon Sharpe is. The allegations against him are, on their surface, troubling. And Sharpe's position is clear. It's all falsified, it's all fabricated, and it's all part of a broader effort to blackmail him.
Now, the lawsuit was filed by attorney Tony Buzbee, who we know well, on behalf of his Jane Doe client. The suit says that Jane Doe met Shannon Sharpe at a gym in LA in early 2023 when she was 19 and Shannon Sharpe was in his 50s. Sharpe aggressively pursued her and she eventually gave him her number. But before the two of them even hang out, he apparently tries to get her to sign an NDA. She refuses to sign it, so he eventually stopped asking and invited her over. Jane Doe agrees to go over, and according to the complaint, the very first night was disturbing and unsettling. The suit says he opens the door and without saying a word just walks upstairs. She follows him, he goes into his bedroom, and then points at the bed. He goes to the bathroom and then comes out, cuts out the lights, and then lays in the bed. Jane Doe says she didn't know what to do, so she just lays in the bed with him, and then the two of them lay there for 10 minutes silently. And then after those 10 minutes, things started happening. The suit claims that at one point, Jane Doe realized that Shannon Sharpe was recording their encounter without her knowledge or her consent. And then the following day, Jane Doe comes back to Shannon Sharpe's house, but she gets there about 5 minutes after the time he told her to arrive. And so she says when she gets inside, he begins yelling at her, accusing her of disrespecting him and wasting his time. He then allegedly grabs her by her neck and then begins engaging with her. But this time he apparently tells her that he's going to end her life. And so, according to Jane Doe, this was the kickoff to the almost 2-year relationship that the two of them had, filled with control, physical, emotional, and psychological abuse. She notes that he once yelled at her while there was a firearm in the room, and because she was scared, she began sharing her location with her friends. But when Shannon Sharpe saw her sharing her location, he allegedly grabbed her by the neck and told her that if she did that again, he would end her life. The lawsuit says that in 2024, Shannon Sharpe and Jane Doe both moved to Vegas, but it notes that Shannon Sharpe apparently likes to claim that Jane Doe followed him to Las Vegas, but she says that's a lie and she went to Las Vegas for her own reasons. Okay, girl. The suit says in September of 2024, when Shannon Sharpe did that infamous live stream,
That's my Michelle.
Jane Doe began to pull away from him because her name ain't Michelle, and she thought the two of them were in an exclusive relationship, but clearly not. About a month later, in October of 2024, Jane Doe says that she was working out at the gym when Shannon Sharpe aggressively approached her. He comes over and tells her to sit down or he's going to end her life. Jane Doe's refusing to speak with him, and so he then allegedly forced her into his car, took her back to her apartment, and then without consent, engaged with her while she was crying and telling him to stop. The suit specifically says that Shannon Sharpe told her, quote, "I'm going to punish this. I'm going to make it so no man will want you again." A few months after this, in January of 2025, the lawsuit says that Shannon Sharpe told Jane Doe that he wanted to see her and that he had a combined Christmas and birthday gift to give to her, because he previously promised her one. So she allows him to come over, and when he did, the suit says that he undressed, and again, despite her screaming and resisting him, he engaged with her without her consent. And so she's suing him for assault and battery and emotional distress. And she's asking for $50 million. As of now, Shannon Sharpe has not responded to the lawsuit, and like always, these are allegations that have to be proven in court. It's also worth noting that this lawsuit references another Shannon Sharpe lawsuit that was apparently filed in New York last year and has similar claims, but I haven't read that lawsuit, so I can't speak to it. So we will see how this one plays out.
I don't know. Anything I say, you're just gonna like get mad at, and you're just gonna hang up on me, so I feel like...
I'm not gonna hang up on you. Here's what it is.
What does that even mean?
Nothing, Gabby. You want to be a dick to me now, so.
I don't want to be... Don't manipulate me.
Oh, Lord have mercy. If you say that one more time, I'm going to fucking choke the shit out of you when I see you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't...
You know what?
Well, I don't want to be choked.
Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice in the matter.
Well, I'm not really interested in getting choked, so I guess we're going.
Yeah. I might choke you in public. Big black guy chokes small white woman.
Oh, man. I mean, 56 and a woman in her early 20s from OnlyFans. I mean, you know, we all make choices. He's got to be regretting that one, I hope. I don't know.
To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown. I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right. This is all being orchestrated by Tony Buzbee, who has targeted Jay-Z. Tony Buzbee targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a sex tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey, Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out. I don't have it, or I would myself. You know what happened, and you're trying to manipulate the media. The encounter in question took place during the day at her invitation, and now that appears to be a deliberate setup, coordinated by Gabby, also known as Carly on OnlyFans. Gabby and Tony Buzbee want $50 million. What they're getting is sued for defamation and trying to take me down. My career is all about real talk and honesty. I know my family and fans know exactly what this is about. And I'm going to be out there telling you whatever I need to say, just like I always do. I love all you guys. Thanks.
Look, I call it like I see it. Listen, the voice, her voice on the tape to me definitely sounds like a woman who knows that she pressed record moments ago. I can tell you that.
Could I interrupt you on that? What we're now getting are these telephone recordings from Mr. Buzbee. This is after he broke off negotiations for this to be put behind Mr. Sharpe without telling anybody, including the retired judge who was mediating and trying the blackmail discussions. We were ready to, they approached us and we were ready to pay the money. And without warning, he filed a lawsuit and went public. And then all of a sudden he's protesting, well, why are they mentioning her name? Well, excuse me. She's accusing my client of rape. I'm going to mention her name. Yeah. And her name is Gabriella Zuniga. And Gabriella is Gabby, Carly, and a lot of other aliases on OnlyFans, where she charges men to act out and to role play exactly what she asked my client, Mr. Sharpe, to do in explicit text messages.
Shannon says, he has a litigious thirst for black men. Is this guy the male Gloria Allred?
So I have made it a practice when I've been in politics, where this is done all the time, never to challenge motives, but to stick to indisputable facts. I'll let people judge by the pattern of his behavior, whether he has a pattern of doing this. Here are my facts. Fact one, he's lying that this was anything other than consensual. He knows that. Fact two, he was engaged in a private negotiation for Mr. Sharpe to pay the blackmail money. The number was very high. We had a retired judge as a mediator. We were very close, just about to finish, when, without warning, without picking up a telephone and professional courtesy to a fellow lawyer, he went public, filed a lawsuit. So those are facts. I'll let people draw conclusions about the behavior of another lawyer. I would just say to you, I would never act that way. That's my choice.
Tony Buzbee he broke the mediation. 10 million bucks was offered. Now the woman, the accuser, Gabby, wants 50 million bucks. Is there a chance that mediation can happen again, or is that ship sailed?
That ship has sailed. Mr. Buzbee cannot be trusted, and that's nothing other than stating a fact.
Buzbee is kinda known for these cases because this is not the first time he's involved in such a case. For instance, Mr. Buzbee is representing a whole host of alleged victims involved in the ongoing Diddy case.
Buzbee has said he represents more than 150 people who accuse Combs of sexual abuse.
The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward.
Well, after thousands of phone calls, Houston attorney Tony Buzbee says he expects even more accusers to come out against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Today, in a news conference we streamed live on click2houston.com, Buzbee announced he is moving forward with 120 of those claims.
Buzbee says he does plan to file these lawsuits within 30 days. He adds that the accusers did take drug tests after the alleged events occurred, saying most of them came back positive after attending parties hosted by Sean Diddy Combs.
In the weeks since the federal government indicted musician Sean Diddy Combs, attorneys say they've received thousands of calls from accusers.
And never, ever in a 10-day period have we seen over 3,000 people come forward.
Of the 3,000 accusers, attorneys claim to verify 120 allegations against Combs. Buzbee said the accusations against Combs range in time frames between 1991 to 2024. Most of the accusers say they were victimized after 2015.
People who wouldn't otherwise, for a variety of reasons, are now stepping forward to make their voices heard and to pursue justice. But no, most of these people are scared. They fear backlash in their communities. They fear backlash in their own families.
This is the type of indictment you would expect from someone in the mafia.
I don't know that I could keep him off the stand. He is very eager to tell his story.
They're going to show that video over and over and over about what happens to women that won't change their stories.
His reputation is over.
The United States government, they start making this case as a takedown of a successful black man.
Tony, you said last week at the news conference that you would begin filing lawsuits as early as this week. Do you have plans to do so? And do they involve celebrities? Do they involve just Diddy, people beyond Diddy?
I think I'll let the lawsuits speak for themselves. I don't expect there to be anything. You know, everyone's focused on what other celebrities were involved. You know, who's going to be named, who's going to be outed. I don't expect that to happen this week. I'm hoping to file some lawsuits this week. They, of course, will include Mr. Combs and some corporate entities. But we want to make sure that you know, if we name individuals beyond Mr. Combs, that we make sure that we've done our homework, because it's going to create a firestorm. We understand that. So we're going to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. If you were attending one of these parties, if you will, and you attended before, or you knew what was going to happen, that is, you knew that a particular drug was being used in drinks that was causing people to be coerced and taken advantage of, and you were there in the room, or you participated, or you watched it happen and didn't say anything, or you helped cover it up, in my view, you have a problem. And as we file each one of these cases, we're going to make an effort to resolve them on the front end, but failing that, we're going to file public lawsuits and pursue these cases aggressively. So who will be named, when they will be named, all that will come out in due course. But the bottom line is, you know, I want to be clear about the scope of this. A lot of people attended these parties. A lot of people saw this activity going on. A lot of people allowed it to go on, said nothing, didn't intervene, maybe benefited from it, profited from it. All of these individuals and entities, in my view, have exposure here. In every single case, especially cases like this, we collect our data, collect our evidence, do our due diligence, spend time with the victim, and then, because it's in the best interest of the victim, we attempt to resolve these matters without the filing of a public lawsuit. And we have done that already. We've done that, I would say, you know, with a handful of individuals, many of which you've heard of before, and we'll continue to do that. That's just the standard process that every lawyer in the United States who handles these types of cases uses, because it's the right way to do it.
Ever since Combs was indicted by federal prosecutors last fall, these parties he was known for hosting and what celebrities may have attended has been the subject of intense scrutiny. But the blast radius around the star had been relatively contained until now.
This morning, disturbing new claims against music icon Jay-Z. A civil lawsuit detailing sexual assault, originally brought against his longtime friend Sean Diddy Combs, now adding new allegations against the rapper, whose real name is Sean Carter. Claims both men deny.
We are learning that Jay-Z is accused of raping a 13-year-old girl. That is new in the Diddy lawsuit, and the new allegations are just coming out this evening. Jay-Z is being accused of raping a minor along with Diddy at a MTV VMAs after party back in 2000, according to documents obtained by Fox News Digital tonight. The lawsuit, which was initially filed back in October, was refiled tonight in New York by an anonymous accuser claiming Jay-Z, whose full name is Sean Carter, raped her while Combs and Celebrity B watched. So that other celebrity was not named. Initially, the lawsuit stated Combs raped the minor while Celebrity A and Celebrity B watched. Carter was named as Celebrity A in the refiled lawsuit. Representatives for Jay-Z did not immediately respond to Fox News Digital request for comment. Combs and Carter allegedly, quote, took turns assaulting the minor, according to the lawsuit. Many others were present at the after party but did nothing to stop the assault, it alleges. The 13-year-old girl was dropped off at Radio City Music Hall by a friend as she wanted to attend the MTV Video Music Awards back in 2000, according to the lawsuit. In an attempt to gain entry to the venue, she began approaching limousine drivers waiting outside the celebrity-filled event. One of the limousine drivers she spoke to claimed to work for Diddy, the lawsuit read. He told her that Combs liked younger girls and said that, quote, she fit what Diddy was looking for, not allowing her into the awards, but inviting her to an after party. The 13-year-old, quote, recognized many celebrities upon arrival at the party and was required to sign a non-disclosure agreement. However, she was not given a copy. Combs, who would have been 30 years old at the time, then allegedly attempted to force the girl to perform oral sex on him. He stopped after she hit him in the neck, according to the lawsuit here.
The anonymous woman, who was 13 at the time, described in the lawsuit as being drugged and raped at an MTV VMAs after party she says Combs hosted in 2000. According to the suit, she recalls accepting a drink from a waitress that made her feel woozy and lightheaded before she says she was raped by Jay-Z and then Combs in a bedroom as an unnamed female celebrity watched.
Breaking news, music mogul Sean Jay-Z Carter is accused of raping a 13-year-old girl with Sean Diddy Combs. Jay-Z was added to an amended civil lawsuit against Combs that was filed today. The suit claims Jay-Z joined Combs in assaulting the minor at an after-party following the 2000 Video Music Awards. Jay-Z is denying the allegations, calling them, quote, a blackmail attempt. In a statement posted on X, the rapper said in part, these allegations are so heinous in nature, my heart and support goes out to true victims in the world who have to watch how their life story is dressed in costume for profitability.
This morning, a blistering response from Jay-Z after he was accused of sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl more than 2 decades ago. The billionaire hip-hop mogul was added to an existing civil lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, citing an alleged incident after the 2000 VMAs, where the victim claims she was drugged and assaulted by both Diddy and Jay-Z while a third celebrity watched.
The judge has actually agreed that the victim can remain anonymous and that the case can proceed. So there seems to be a little bit more to this case.
Jay-Z vehemently denying the claim, writing, these allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint. Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Also saying, my only heartbreak is for my family. My wife and I will have to sit our children down and explain the cruelty and greed of people. I mourn yet another loss of innocence. Jay-Z also attacked the attorney behind the lawsuit, Tony Buzbee, who fired back saying, I won't be bullied or intimidated. Buzbee is behind at least 20 of the sexual assault lawsuits against Combs, who calls Buzbee's lawsuits shameless publicity stunts.
Combs' statement went on to say he has never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone. Combs will stay in jail until his trial in May, but he has appealed the most recent decision to deny him bail. That ruling should come later this week.
Jay-Z swiftly issuing a statement Sunday calling the claims heinous and accusing the woman's attorney of trying to blackmail him, suggesting the attorney had tried to seek a settlement first, adding, quote, I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one. Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. My heart and support goes out to the true victims in the world. The billionaire, who is married to megastar Beyonce, saying he is heartbroken. The couple will have to explain the, quote, cruelty and greed of people to their children. Combs, too, has denied any allegations of sexual assault. Earlier this fall, the plaintiff's attorney, Tony Buzbee, a personal injury lawyer in Texas, held a press conference after Combs was indicted on federal sex trafficking charges, suggesting more fallout would follow.
I expect that through this process, many powerful people will be exposed.
Combs pleaded not guilty to the charges and continues to deny the allegations Buzbee has made against him in a string of civil lawsuits, which Combs' attorneys have dismissed as shameless publicity stunts. But this marks the first suit publicly naming another high-profile celebrity.
All right, bang, let's talk about it. Jay-Z had a problem. See, his problem was he was just accused of doing something he should not have been doing with a person whose age I cannot say. But I can show you the title of this show. Anyway, this story is a little bit deeper than it seems. See, this accusation is actually a lawsuit brought up by a man named Tony Buzbee. That's important. I'm gonna tell you why in a second. But first, let me tell you what the lawsuit reads. So it's the 2000 VMAs. This girl is trying to get in, but she's not having any luck. She sees this limo driver and he tells her, hey, look, there's this party going on down the street. Come through. It's Diddy's party. The limo driver allegedly says, and you're his type, so I'm sure you're gonna get in. Mind you, this girl is that age we spoke about earlier in the video, which we're now gonna be calling cupcake age. Now, I know that sounds gross, but well, that's the point, isn't it? Anyway, he says, look, I'm finna drive Diddy there first. I'm gonna swing back, pick you up. She says, cool. He drives Diddy there, he swings back, he picks her up, drives her to the spot. She said, that mug jumping. She said, the party going off. You see celebrities from all over, but you also see a lot of like the really intense kind. So she talks to a couple celebrities, she chilling, and then she has something to drink. She says she immediately feels super duper lit and has to go lie down. She goes to a bedroom, she lies down. Then allegedly Diddy, Jay-Z, and an unknown female celebrity walk in. Diddy walk in tweaking. She said, wild eyes, talking about, you ready to party? He like kind of shaking her, she falls. She then gets up. Then allegedly Jay-Z picks her up, and well, this next part might be a little intense, so if you're sensitive to that sort of thing, skip to when I put my hand up like this. So Diddy and that unnamed celebrity at this point are just watching while Jay-Z does stuff he shouldn't be doing. Then Diddy, after Jay-Z takes a step back, then begins to do stuff he shouldn't be doing. Afterwards, Diddy then allegedly tries to force her to continue. That's when she gets her wits about her and begins to scrap. Diddy's shocked, like, what's going on? She grabs her clothes, takes off. She's running through the party holding her clothes, and apparently nobody's doing anything to help. She gets outside, she gets those clothes on, runs to a gas station. Hand up for the folks that ain't want to hear all that, by the way. She gets to a gas station. The female clerk at the gas station sees that this girl's in distress, so she gives her a phone. She grabs a phone, she calls her dad, says, hey, I snuck out, come pick me up. Pops picks her up. Pops takes her home. Now, she then says this has affected her through her whole life and it put her in a deep depression. That's important. Now, let's talk about real quick what Jay-Z has to say about this, because he responds immediately. He says that lawyer, Tony Buzbee, remember that lawyer I showed you earlier? Jay-Z says he's basically doing all this for the cash. He's trying to blackmail me. Jay-Z then says for a crime as heinous as this, why would you file a civil suit? File a criminal suit against me. Now, for those of you that don't know, there are two different types of trials in the United States. There's a criminal case where basically the police is going after you, you're going to jail. Then there's civil, which this case is. You're not going to jail, but you more often than not have to pay somebody money for damages. It's like getting sued. So Jay-Z's saying, why would you sue me? Call the police. Jay-Z then goes on to say, I had to talk to my daughter about this. My daughter, she finna go to school, and then what? Then Jay-Z said in the last line to the lawyer, I look forward to showing you how different I am.
Mr. Buzbee represented a plaintiff who accused rapper Jay-Z, who also called Buzbee a shakedown artist by the way, of misconduct against a 13-year-old and ultimately rescinded her allegation.
Breaking news, a civil case accusing Jay-Z and Sean Combs of sexually assaulting a then teenager has been dismissed. That's according to a new court filing today. The suit was initially filed in October, and the accuser said Jay-Z and Combs raped her in 2000 after an awards show. Jay-Z was quick to deny the allegations. An attorney for the rapper said today Jay-Z never settled and cleared his name.
Now, in a statement posted online, Buzbee, the lawyer, acknowledged sending Jay-Z a letter prior to filing this complaint, prior to this whole thing, seeking a confidential mediation, but says his client never demanded a penny from Jay-Z. At the time, she is now seeking an unspecified amount in damages.
Houston attorney Tony Buzbee has dropped a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z tied to an alleged rape of a 13-year-old girl that allegedly happened at the MTV Music Awards back in 2000. It's one of several suits against Diddy Buzbee has filed in recent months, but the only one that also targeted the Rock Nation mogul and husband of Beyonce. In a statement released just minutes ago, here's what Jay-Z said, in part, quote, The civil suit was without merit and never going anywhere. The fictional tale they created was laughable if not for the seriousness of the claims. I would not wish this experience on anyone. The trauma that my wife, my children, loved ones, and I have endured can never be dismissed.
It sounds like Jay is coming to tap those pockets, too.
Absolutely. He's not letting this go. Absolutely. So, yeah. Honestly, we talked about this, though, right? We said it. We're like, he's not going to let this go.
No.
He's going to fight to clear his name, and then he's going to come after him. And that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, and as he should. As he should. But it is a congrats, because Tony Buzbee also represents some people who actually really are victims. And now he's completely sullied all that. Maybe he already was a bad guy, but this was a huge botch.
Now, in response, Jay-Z sued Buzbee last November, accusing him of trying to extort money in order to settle the case. Jay-Z issuing a statement today on his management company's website, Roc Nation, saying, in part, quote, "The fictional tale they created was laughable, if not for the seriousness of the claims." This 1-800 lawyer, referring to Buzbee, gets to file a suit hiding behind Jane Doe, and when they quickly realize the money grab is going to fail, they get to walk away with no repercussions.
Now that Jane Doe and Tony Buzbee's case against Jay-Z has been voluntarily dropped by Jane Doe, as a retaliation, Jay-Z has filed a lawsuit against attorney Buzbee, who had represented Doe in a case where she accused the rapper and Sean Diddy Combs of raping her when she was just 13 years old back in 2000. Now, in a declaration filed in the Los Angeles Superior Court, Doe would say, "Fear of intimidation from Jay-Z and or his associates or fans is one of the reasons that I chose not to pursue to the New York action and instructed my attorneys to dismiss it. Because Doe has dismissed the lawsuit with prejudice, it cannot be filed again." Now, according to the documents, Jay-Z is now suing for abuse of process, malicious prosecution, civil conspiracy, and defamation. In Jay-Z's new lawsuit, he accuses Jane Doe of conspiring with multiple attorneys, including Buzbee, in order to make defamatory statements against him. Now, Buzbee has been representing multiple individuals accusing Combs of sexual abuse and trafficking. However, Jane Doe's was the only one that named Jay-Z. In the new lawsuit, Jay-Z accuses Doe, Buzbee, and another attorney, David Fortney, of being soullessly motivated by greed and attempted to extort him via a menacing private demand letter. However, when the letter didn't lead to any financial results, the lawsuit was amended in order to include Jay-Z. According to Deadline, the case goes on to say, Doe has now voluntarily admitted directly to representatives of Mr. Carter that the story brought before the world in court and on global television was just that, a false, malicious story. She has admitted that Mr. Carter did not assault her, and that indeed it was Buzbee himself whom she met for the first time at a coffee shop in Houston on the day of her malicious false NBC News interview, who pushed her to go forward with the false narrative of the assault by Mr. Carter in order to leverage a maximum payday. Apparently, Buzbee thinks differently because, in response to Jay-Z's new lawsuit, Buzbee would take to Instagram to clear the air on a few rumors, even claiming that this new lawsuit by Jay-Z is more of an intimidation tactic. Along with posting a picture of Oscar Wilde, he would write at length, "I've ignored the salacious and false stories about me that are nothing more than an effort to deter me from doing my important work. I do think it's important at some point to comment when the truth has been turned upside down. Here's the deal. I sent a demand for a meeting to Sean Carter's attorney on behalf of two individuals who alleged sexual assault. Rather than meet with me, Carter's team sued me for extortion. Those claims were stupidly frivolous, and I expect they will be thrown out. Note that it was Carter's team that made this whole thing public. Carter's lawyer also came to Houston and met with the local authorities and tried to get criminal charges started against me. That went nowhere. Then they tracked down and harassed former employees and clients from as far back as 20 years. They were caught on tape offering up to 10 grand to former clients to sue me. 3 did so. All 3 cases were patently frivolous. One case has already been dismissed. I expect the other 2 will also be dismissed because they refused to meet with me, and because I have an obligation to my clients, I brought claims against Carter on behalf of one of the clients in New York. Carter's team filed a meritless motion for sanctions against me, challenged my admission to federal court in New York, and filed a state bar grievance against me.
Tony Buzbee is the attorney who was coming after Jay-Z and Diddy over the sexual assault lawsuit, right? And obviously, that didn't go in his favor. But now, he has filed over a dozen cases against Diddy in New York City. So the thing is that according to reports, he can no longer practice law in the Southern District of New York. So this includes New York, Bronx, Westchester, Rockland, it just keeps going, right? The 5 boroughs of New York City. And so now I'm like, all of those lawsuits are donezo. I think they have to find a new representation because he can no longer.
Here's where it gets really nasty. They found my client who filed the lawsuit. They threatened and harassed her. They harassed her family and friends. She has health issues. She has seizures. She withdrew her case. They then sued her and me again for defamation. They had already sued me for defamation and most of the cases being thrown out. Pay attention here. They wanted a headline. So in the new case, they falsely claimed she recanted. She didn't. She hasn't. She won't. I wasn't there when the thing she claims happened to her allegedly happened. I'm just her lawyer. I was sent her case by another firm and vetted it myself and with multiple lawyers on my team. The approach here by Carter's team is unprecedented. It reeks of desperation. Wonder why? We won't be bullied or intimidated.
Behalf of 7 women against Deshaun Watson for civil assault. And you should all know that before we filed the first lawsuit, I personally visited with the plaintiff multiple times. I understood that this case would generate a lot of interest. I wanted to make damn sure that what she was saying was plausible, was right and true. And I was convinced after visiting with her that she was telling the absolute truth. And to be quite honest, she's a very brave person, very brave person. Her story certainly passes the smell test. She is brave and truthful. And of course, when she told me the story about what had happened to her, I like many of you, I wondered, why would someone like Deshaun Watson, who probably has access to 40 or 50 trainers, masseuses and the like, why would he reach out to individuals on Instagram? And that's a question that maybe you should ask him or his lawyer. I wondered that. I assume, like perhaps you do, that he has a large team of people that can handle any massage needs that he had. We are now representing 12 women, and we will file the remaining cases, the additional 5 cases in due course as we do our due diligence. You should also know that we've also spoken to more than 10 additional women. So more than 22 women that we've spoken to who have reported conduct similar to that laid out in our public filings. And I want to say this to any woman out there that's had an experience like this. And I want to be very clear about this. If you are a victim of sexual assault, hear me. Contact our office. You can remain anonymous. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your story, and we want your voice to be heard. I want to tell you a little bit about the 12 clients we currently represent. Most of these women work in the massage industry. Some work at spas. Some work from their homes. Some will go to the Houstonian or the like for a massage session. These are, for the most part, licensed professionals. These are people that many of them are single mothers, either own their own shop or work for a spa. 7 of these women that we filed lawsuits on behalf are African American. 2 are Hispanic. and 3 are Caucasian. 3 of them are married, 1 is engaged, and like I say, many are single mothers. All of the cases that we have filed, and we have vetted each one very carefully, allege the same or similar conduct. 3 of the women that we represent are undergoing intensive therapy as a result of the defendant's conduct. You should know that at least 1 of these women was referred to Deshaun Watson by the Texans organization. As recent as last week, the quarterback coach, Quincy Avery, referred Deshaun Watson to one of my clients. In fact, you should know that even you've heard Mr. Watson's, his tweet where he said, he was, we were seeking publicity, which is silly on its face, or that, this was all about money. We actually had contact with Deshaun Watson's agent/lawyer from Los Angeles, who minimized these allegations, who did not take them seriously. We wanted to resolve this matter without a lawsuit, without any publicity. We knew that once we filed a lawsuit, Texas, of course, has an open courts provision in the Constitution, so all lawsuits are public, and we wanted to avoid that. What we received instead of cooperation with Mr. Watson's agent was dismissive behavior and, frankly, incredible arrogance. Even after we had discussions with Mr. Watson's lawyer at the time, before he hired Rusty Hardin, one of the clients that we represent, even after we had correspondence and after we had talked to Mr. Watson's lawyer, he did it again. I mean, this conduct happened as recently as this month.
Mr. Buzbee also worked with a number of female massage therapists who accused NFL star Deshaun Watson of sexual assault.
The team of attorneys led by Houston's Tony Buzbee, who previously represented several accusers against former Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson on various sexual assault allegations. Watson denied the claims.
A serious accusation against Deshaun Watson. Sources close to the Texans quarterback say a female masseuse is claiming he sexually assaulted her. On social media last night, Houston attorney Tony Buzbee said he's filed a lawsuit against Watson. Buzbee wrote, "This case we just filed against Watson isn't about money. It's about dignity and stopping behavior that should be stopped now." Watson had a strong response on Twitter, saying he only respects women and adding the plaintiff's lawyer claims this isn't about money. But before filing suit, he made a baseless 6-figure settlement demand, which I quickly rejected. Unlike him, this isn't about money for me. It's about clearing my name, and I look forward to doing that. This comes as a star quarterback is demanding a trade from the Houston Texans. The team has refused, and the two sides have been in a standoff. Many people are expressing their opinions online. Eric Vaughn wrote, "If Deshaun actually sexually assaulted a woman, he should be punished." Well-known fan Debbie the Texan tweeted, "Sending some prayers your way, Deshaun Watson. Life is not easy for you these days."
The high-profile attorney suing Texan star Deshaun Watson says he is now representing 12 women. Tony Buzbee has filed 7 lawsuits accusing the Texans star quarterback of sexual assault or misconduct.
That's right, Sherman, and he says he's spoken with more than 10 additional women. So that brings a total to more than 22 women that Buzbee says he has spoken with, who he says are alleging similar things to what is currently in those lawsuits right now. Now, this afternoon, Tony Buzbee says he has vetted these cases carefully. All 7 lawsuits filed so far are from women who work in wellness or massage services. They all accuse Watson of exposing himself and inappropriate touching during a session. The most serious allegation accuses Watson of forcing a woman to perform oral sex. Buzbee said he has been, in his words, informally contacted by the Houston Police Department.
We're going to get all the lawsuits on file first, put together a package, submit it to the police department. We're not sure. Not every victim may want to come forward. I mean, let's not forget, it takes a lot of courage, to step forward when you're dealing with somebody powerful.
Watson is not facing criminal charges, and he has denied all of these accusations. He put out a statement on Twitter earlier this week saying, quote, before filing suit, the plaintiff's lawyer made a baseless six-figure settlement demand, which I quickly rejected. Watson has hired Rusty Hardin, of course, a very well-known attorney here in Houston, to represent him.
Attorney Tony Buzbee says he plans to submit affidavits and evidence to the Houston Police Department and the Harris County District Attorney's Office. They could decide whether to bring criminal charges against Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. We've been telling you, Buzbee represents 12 women so far, massage therapists who accuse Watson of making inappropriate demands during private sessions that they consider sexual harassment and assault. Buzbee says in addition to the 12, another 10 women have reached out to him with similar stories. Watson, who adamantly denies the accusations, has hired attorney Rusty Hardin to defend him. Hardin plans to respond this coming week after he's had a chance to review all the lawsuits.
Judge Robinson, in her decision, she described Watson's behavior as nonviolent. You have represented these women throughout the process. Would you describe that as an accurate assessment of the situation?
I'm going to shy away from that just because I'm not going to comment on Watson's behavior. But I will say that the judge can only rule on what was put before her. Only 4 cases were put before her. There were many more than that. We made many more people available to the NFL that they chose not to talk to. We also provided statements to them that they chose not to accept. So, as far as the details of the judge's ruling, and some of the factual findings she made. Obviously, we agree with those. I'm not sure what distinction she was attempting to make between violent and nonviolent, but I'll let somebody else sort that part out. I will say that the women that I represent, as I said before, they were not sitting back waiting for the NFL to do anything groundbreaking, and of course, nothing like that happened. Now we'll see what the NFL does going forward. I think several of the people that I represent will be willing to speak out about the NFL and how the NFL treated them in particular, and how this process has went forward. So we intend to do that, I think, on Thursday. But until then, we'll just wait and see what the NFL does.
I mean, you mentioned it, trying to wait to see what the NFL does. They're trying to still determine whether or not they're going to appeal the decision. What do you believe it should do when it comes to an appeal?
Well, I mean, they're in a position. They have a finding by a federal court judge who was mutually appointed that made some very specific factual findings. We know what those findings were based on. They were based on only 4 women. We know there are many more women than that involved. So we'll wait and see. I mean, obviously, I have strong feelings about it, but I'll wait and see what the NFL does, and then we'll hear from the victims, and we'll have a conference on Thursday to talk about it. I mean, I think the common misconception is that they testified and the court was able to, hear from them personally, but that didn't happen. It's been radio silence with the NFL since more than a year for us. The NFL has no interest, does not care about the rights of women. They care about the bottom line. They care about making money. They're trying to manage this as a PR crisis. But as far as trying to do anything to assuage these particular women or women's rights or dealing with women's rights in general, that's not part of their mission statement. And they've made that very clear throughout this process.
Major brands are now publicly distancing themselves from NFL quarterback Deshaun Watson after allegations of sexual misconduct. Today, Nike suspended its endorsement deal with the quarterback. In a statement, the company said it is deeply concerned by the disturbing allegations and that it will closely monitor the situation. Hours later, the headphones company Beats by Dre terminated its partnership with Deshaun Watson. 22 women are suing the quarterback for alleged sexual misconduct. One of them spoke publicly yesterday and for the first time. Ashley Solis is a massage therapist. She says Deshaun Watson exposed himself and touched her inappropriately last year during a session at her home. Watson has denied all of the allegations against him. His lawyer says the lawsuits were brought after the quarterback refused what he called baseless settlement demands.
The court hearing planned this afternoon didn't happen, but the civil cases against Deshaun Watson kept moving forward. 20 of the 22 women accusing Watson of sexual misconduct or assault have now refiled their lawsuits with their real names. That's information Watson's lawyer, Rusty Hardin, had pushed for.
How in the world are we supposed to respond when we don't know the names of the people?
Judges ruled 13 of those names must be made public. Now, the women's lawyer, Tony Buzbee, said even more of his clients were emboldened to add their names.
Deshaun Watson assaulted and harassed me.
After seeing accuser Ashley Solis take her story public.
Tony Buzbee just did what was inevitable, which is that every judge in Harris County was ultimately going to require the names be turned over. And so he just got in front of it and decided to turn them over himself.
One of the women ordered to reveal her identity instead dropped her lawsuit for now. Court documents say she did so in light of privacy and security concerns.
Well, guys, the grand jury flat out rejected that Deshaun Watson did absolutely anything criminal here, and that's virtually shut down the criminal investigation into the NFL quarterback. Now, prosecutors did walk us through, give us a little bit more detail about how exactly things played out today. They tell us they convened this grand jury at 9 this morning, presenting evidence in a total of 9 criminal complaints. That included testimony from several of the alleged victims, represented in civil suits by attorney Tony Buzbee. Watson was facing allegations of sexual misconduct during massages. 3 specific women alleged Watson sexually assaulted or attempted to sexually assault them. After listening to 6 hours of evidence and testimony, they came to a decision, 9 no bills. The decision announced nearly 1 year since those allegations first surfaced.
Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson will not be indicted for accusations relating to sexual assault.
A Harris County grand jury has determined that there's just not enough evidence to pursue criminal charges. And Fox 26's Matthew Seedorf is live tonight, having spoken with the quarterback. Matthew.
Yeah, Caitlin Rashi, at one point it seemed like he was holding back tears tonight. He no longer faces criminal charges, so he can talk, but he still faces civil charges, so he couldn't say much.
Yeah, I just first want to say
Houston Texans star quarterback emotional, speaking publicly for the first time since allegations surfaced involving sexual misconduct.
I know we're far from being done of handling what we need to handle on the legal side, but today is definitely a big day, and I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for, letting the truth be heard.
A Harris County grand jury Friday behind closed doors deciding Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson will not face criminal charges involving sexual complaints.
We presented evidence for over 6 hours, and the grand jury considered all of that evidence and returned 9 no bills against Deshaun Watson.
Today justice was served for us, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
That has nothing to do with the civil case.
Attorney Tony Buzbee represents the women filing civil suits, speaking with us before the verdict.
Whatever the outcome of that does not impact my civil case. Whether there is an indictment, not an indictment, charges, that's really out of my control.
It's definitely a very emotional moment for me. I know we're far from being done of handling what we need to handle on the legal side, but today is definitely a big day, and I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for, letting the truth be heard, and I thank everyone that was a part of this, of seeing and hearing both sides, and that's what my point and my team wanted to do, is have a fair slate of us telling our side of the story, and letting the conclusion come down to what happened today, and that's what the grand jury decided on. So, yeah, thank you, and I just thank my Lord and Savior, and just going to keep fighting to rebuild my name and rebuild my appearance in the community, and we're going to continue to, on the legal side, off the field, handle what we need to handle, but also ready to get back on the field, been prepping for that, and ready to go for that. So. Thank my family, all my close supporters that's been behind me this past year. Thank my team that's been behind me and supporting me and keeping me up this past year. And yeah, I'm going to continue to just keep pushing forward and build my name back to where it was, if not better. Thank you.
Allegedly, Mr. Buzbee approached Shannon with the evidence from Ms. Zuniga and asked that they settle instead of the whole thing going to court and becoming public, but they didn't like the offer put forward by Shannon of around $10 million. According to BuzzWire Daily, Shannon offered Ms. Zuniga $10 million to withdraw the case before it went to trial, an offer which she declined, a phenomenon that has raised some serious eyebrows. Like, why would he offer to settle if he wasn't guilty? And here lies the problem, and that's how we got to the whole Jay-Z situation as an example.
Tony Buzbee, right? He's the lawyer who represented a woman who claimed that she was raped by Diddy and Jay-Z when she was 13. Jay-Z responded in force. That suit was dropped. Jay-Z has since filed a defamation suit against Tony Buzbee, going after the lawyer himself personally. Lanny Davis, Shannon's lawyer, admitted yesterday that before he arrived on the scene, Shannon offered at least $10 million to settle the matter in mediation with this woman. She turned it down. Never in my mind the logical move of a man. You don't offer a settlement. You saw what Jay-Z did earlier, right? Jay-Z got accused of something terrible. He didn't offer to settle. He went and mounted a massive counterattack. And ultimately, they dropped that suit, and now he's still pursuing this Tony Buzbee, same guy, same lawyer, to clear his name. That's sort of, to me, that feels like the way you behave when accused of something heinous.
My question is, why would Shannon Sharpe offer $10 million to someone who is allegedly shaking him down?
Thank you for that question. It's amazing how many people have asked me that question, so you have good company.
Okay, but it's the obvious one. It's the one that jumps out at you. If someone accuses me of something horrible, I'm not offering them a dime.
So what's the definition of blackmail? Why do people who are talking about blackmail pay money? It's because what is about to be revealed was a private act that could embarrass them and their family and hurt their reputation and their business. So blackmail, by definition, is paying money when you're innocent. If anyone wants to look at the definition of blackmail, interview 1,000 people who've been in blackmail situations who pay the money when they're totally innocent.
Look, I call it like I see it. Listen, the voice, her voice on the tape to me definitely sounds like a woman who knows that she pressed record moments ago. I can tell you that.
Could I interrupt you on that? What we're now getting are these telephone recordings from Mr. Buzbee. This is after he broke off negotiations for this to be put behind Mr. Sharpe without telling anybody, including the retired judge who was mediating and trying the blackmail discussions. We were ready to, they approached us and we were ready to pay the money. And without warning, he filed a lawsuit and went public. And then all of a sudden he's protesting, well, why are they mentioning her name? Well, excuse me. She's accusing my client of rape. I'm going to mention her name. Yeah. And her name is Gabriella Zuniga. And Gabriella is Gabby, Carly, and a lot of other aliases on OnlyFans, where she charges men to act out and to role play exactly what she asked my client, Mr. Sharpe, to do in explicit text messages.
Would you say that, 3, 4, 5 years ago, this could be a problem because we had this thing of prosecution and the innocent before guilty was, innocent until proven guilty was out the window. We were prosecuting and putting guys away on accusations alone. Here we are. It's a different climate right now. And I hate to make a broad connection, but Trump kind of ushered that in. Is it possible that you're a man you don't like, Donald Trump, and his change of the climate will help Shannon Sharpe?
Well, and I blame a lot of things on Mr. Trump, but I'm not going to blame this one on him. The culture of the social media and the culture of the presumption of guilt, contrary to our Constitution, which is the presumption of innocence, is we're a product of the media and social media who makes and reports the accusation of this woman. By definition, she filed a public case accusing somebody of rape. That's going to be reported by news organizations. No criticism. It has to be reported.
For a lot of these celebrities, there's nothing more important than their name. Their reputation is their bread and butter. These celebrities' reputations is everything they need to get by in life. As such, these celebrities wouldn't want anything messing with their reputations. Their solution? Shut down anything that could threaten their reputation as soon as possible, and there lies the problem.
These two may both be billionaires, but they are not the same. Diddy had a reputation for loving to party, loving to just do whatever he wants whenever he feels like it. Jay-Z has a reputation for being calculating, and rumor has it behind the scenes he can be quite ruthless. Tony said, screw all that, I'm suing everybody. He first comes to fame when Diddy first gets all those charges brought against him. He says, I'm gonna find everybody that Diddy wrong and we finna sue Diddy. He then says, also, I may have some other people that I'm gonna sue later. Well, now we see that other person he was talking about is Jay-Z. Now, before he made the announcement and told all of us, he told Jay-Z, because that's what you got to do legally. He said, look, Jay-Z, we don't got to do this whole court thing. You can just give my client some money and we can make this all go away. Now, this isn't shady. This is just called a settlement. Apparently, right after this, Jay-Z starts sending people over to Tony's crib, start watching Tony, start investigating. Tony said, huh? Tony said, who you think you intimidating? Ring, ring, ring. Tony gets a call. Plaintiff saying, yo, all these people are around my house investigating me, all that. Tony said, oh, that's Jay-Z trying to intimidate us. This is all Tony saying this. So Tony says that pissed plaintiff and him off. So they said, Jay-Z, we announcing all of this to the world. Jay-Z says, do it. You're not finna get a penny from me. If this were a criminal trial, police would say, hey, this was 24 years ago. Probably not that much physical evidence. So let's go talk to the witnesses. Now remember the witnesses. There was that limo driver, there was the gas station clerk that handed the plaintiff the phone, and there was unnamed female celebrity that saw everything happen. Gas station clerk and limo driver, they didn't actually see what happened, but their testimony would still help. Our star witness is that unnamed female celebrity. If she says, oh yeah, I saw that happen, then it's good to go. Jay-Z and Diddy might be in a little trouble for this. But this is a civil trial. Again, ain't no police involved, so what point does unnamed female celebrity or even the limo driver or the gas station clerk have to come out and say Jay-Z did it? They finna just sit there and stay quiet. Why go against Jay-Z? On top of that, with Jay-Z's expensive lawyers, he's not losing. So what is the point of suing Jay-Z if you know you're probably gonna lose and Jay-Z knows you're probably gonna lose? Why would he pay you? Well, the answer is reputation. Whether Jay-Z did the crime or not, the only way you can get a famous, rich celebrity to pay you is by threatening their reputation. Because no, they can't arrest him, but boy, they can do something called a deposition. That means they can ask him any question, anything goes. Jay-Z, how old was Beyonce when you met her? They could be like, how old was Aaliyah again? Jay-Z could be like, hold on a second, now we was just friends. They'd be like, wow, you have all sorts of friends, huh? Especially your boy Diddy. Not a good look. Celebrities don't want people knowing all this stuff. The irony is, I just let you know all this stuff in this video, no trial needed. But anyway, why wouldn't Jay-Z just settle out of court, pay the money, keep his reputation clean? Well, that's because settling out of court don't work all the time. For example, Michael Jackson. A lot of people don't know this, but he was sued for chasing cupcakes twice. The first trial, there was overwhelming evidence proving his innocence, but he was losing a lot of money because he wasn't doing concerts and all that. So his people told him, look, just pay them the money, take a settlement, and come on, let's make this money in the concerts. So Michael said, fine. Bad move, because Michael Jackson paid $23 million. Another family said, $23 million, what? They sued him. Overwhelming evidence proving Michael Jackson didn't do it. So he said, this time, no, we fighting this. Because if you keep settling, you're gonna have to keep settling. So you don't really have a choice but to go to trial sometimes. Michael Jackson wins, of course, but his name was attached to that lawsuit forever. All that being said, Jay-Z could have done this. He could be guilty. But I do not have those answers for you. But what I do know is he's decided to let his reputation take a hit so he can fight this case. Because he's probably thinking if he pays for this civil case, then another civil case is gonna come and another civil case is gonna come. What I want you to pay attention for though, is if a criminal case pops up, because that's when things finna get wicked. And a lot of times these civil cases make the police and the FBI go, wait, what? Cassie brought a civil case to Diddy, FBI said criminal case coming. While Michael Jackson was getting sued for those civil cases, police said criminal case coming. FBI did their own investigation and they said absolutely no for real evidence against Michael Jackson. Now, as for Jay-Z, we probably have to wait and see how this civil trial unfolds before you even talk about a criminal trial. I'm just getting ahead of myself.
The knowledge of what celebrity reputation means to the holders makes them easy targets for a quick buck. The whole Jay-Z situation with the alleged 13-year-old was also a civil suit. Blake Lively also initially filed a civil sexual assault suit against Justin Baldoni before the whole thing blew up.
I think you've done the right thing. You come out, you counterpunch when you've been wrongly accused. You have to come out strong. Brian Friedman, who represents Justin Baldoni in the Baldoni versus Lively, he's very smart about that. He gets out in front and he takes on questions. He does a great job with it. There's several that do. I think you're doing the right thing. I mean, if I'm him, I'm gonna roar out with my innocence.
But just to thank you for the comment, and I do find many people call me who follow the mantra of the book I wrote, when you're in this situation with the media, tell it early, tell it all, tell it yourself, and don't let it dribble out. Our Secretary of Defense might have followed that advice right from the very beginning. I wrote a column that recommended those words, tell it early, tell it all, tell it yourself, Mr. Hexbeth. He didn't follow that advice. So yes, this is what we're doing, but you can't do this. And I wrote a book about this. You cannot do what I'm now doing with you right now I don't have documented proof that my client is telling the truth. So we have the facts and the proof on our side, and that's why we're confident in the outcome of the jury verdict.
After a tense press tour for the blockbuster earlier this year,
I think Blake Lively's ready to direct. That's what I think. So, yeah.
Blake Lively suing the film's director and her co-star, Justin Baldoni, accusing him of sexual harassment on set, retaliation, and attempting to damage her reputation. Allegations Justin denies. Some of the biggest bombshells in the 80-page lawsuit claim Blake and her husband Ryan Reynolds attended a January meeting with Justin and the CEO of his production company, Steve Heath, to address a hostile work environment. She accused them of showing nude images, discussing pornography habits, and making inappropriate comments about their genitalia to her and other employees. Allegedly, the meeting ended with the men agreeing to stop the list of behaviors. Blake's complaint also accuses Justin of adding explicit sexual content and nude scenes to It Ends With Us without her consent, including an on-camera orgasm, and asking Blake invasive questions about her sex life, then pushing her to simulate nudity during a birthing scene, dismissing her objections.
I shouldn't be hired for that.
While allowing the set to remain open, allowing non-essential crew to pass while Blake was mostly nude.
What is happening?
Now, when it comes to the alleged smear campaign against Blake, Blake claims Justin orchestrated the campaign to ruin her reputation after she reported on-set harassment. According to the document, Justin allegedly hired a PR specialist to engage in astroturfing, which, in simple terms, involves creating fake public backlash to damage the actress's credibility. Screenshots in the complaint show Justin's publicist texting the PR specialist that Justin wanted Blake to feel like she could be buried. The campaign allegedly included planting stories about fan backlash during the film's press tour, boosting content to create viral pile-ons, and portraying Justin as a feminist ally to suppress misconduct allegations.
I have great women behind me that just help me look good.
Justin's lawyer calls Blake's claims categorically false and accuses her of using salacious lies to fix her reputation, blaming her actions for the film's struggles. Meanwhile, Blake telling the New York Times she hopes her lawsuit exposes sinister tactics against those speaking out about misconduct.
Actor-director Justin Baldoni is now suing his former co-star Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds, seeking more than $400 million in damages, accusing them of defamation and extortion. Baldoni directed and acted in the hit film It Ends With Us, which starred Lively as well. 2 weeks ago, Lively sued Baldoni and his production company, alleging harassment on set and a coordinated campaign to attack her reputation. A lawyer for Baldoni called Lively's claims false and outrageous.
A couple weeks ago, you guys might remember, on New Year's Day, there were 2 lawsuits that were filed. Blake Lively filed a lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, claiming harassment took place by Baldoni against her on the set of It Ends With Us, and that an orchestrated smear campaign took place behind the scenes with his PR team. And they had these text messages, and then a little bit before that lawsuit was filed, there was this explosive piece in the New York Times with this very dramatic headline line from the publicist saying, "We can bury anyone." Well, on that same day, Justin Baldoni sued the New York Times for libel for $250 million, saying that Blake Lively had conspired with the New York Times to make him look like this bad individual when really it was all Lively. Well, now he's put all of that in a lawsuit against Lively and, like you said, Ryan Reynolds, in which he says, hold on a second, it wasn't me orchestrating a smear campaign against Lively. It was actually Blake Lively, her husband, her PR team coming at me because we had creative differences over the film. So he is seeking over $400 million. This was filed in New York. It's a civil complaint, not a criminal complaint, but we could see this play out in a courtroom.
Overnight, Blake Lively speaking out. Her legal team saying in a statement that Justin Baldoni's dramatic new lawsuit is, quote, another chapter in the abuser playbook. Baldoni suing his It Ends With Us co-star, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and her PR team for defamation and extortion, seeking $400 million.
Promise me.
In the suit, Baldoni, who directs and stars in the film, claims Lively used her immense power as a global celebrity to seize control of the film. Baldoni saying Lively enlisted the help of Reynolds and alluding to the couple's famous friend, Taylor Swift, during a rewrite of one of the film's most famous scenes.
You just broke into my building?
I have a really nice view.
I do.
Baldoni says the actress summoned him to her New York penthouse, where Reynolds and a famous and famously close friend of Reynolds and Lively praised Lively's version of the scene, which he says made him feel pressured to comply. Baldoni's team now confirming that friend was Taylor Swift, the pop star's first name mentioned in the lawsuit, which includes a text from Baldoni to Lively about that rewrite. The director saying, "I really love what you did," adding, "and I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor." But Lively's legal team saying the strategy of attacking the woman is desperate. It does not refute the evidence in Miss Lively's complaint, and it will fail. Baldoni's lawsuit also saying that, quote, even well into production, Lively had not read the immensely popular Colleen Hoover novel that the movie is based on, and that she assumed control over various aspects of the movie, even inflating the budget with wardrobe choices, including a $5,000 pair of shoes for her character, and created her own cut of the film. Lively's team saying Baldoni is falsely claiming that she seized creative control and saying that the studio Sony asked her to oversee a separate cut, quote, which they then selected for distribution and was a resounding success. Last August, Baldoni praised Lively's work on the film here on Today.
She had her hands in every part of this production, and everything she touched, she made better.
This footage, which appears in the finished version film It Ends With Us, only in this brief slow-motion montage, appears to show the two stars discussing how to play the scene as they slow dance. Baldoni's team says the 3 takes of this scene, reportedly shot in May 2023, show that what took place on set doesn't match claims of sexual harassment that Lively made in a legal complaint last month. According to the complaint, while filming a slow dance scene, Baldoni was, quote, caressing Miss Lively with his mouth in a way that had nothing to do with their roles. In the raw footage released by the director's attorney, the two stars can be heard talking about production details while playing to the camera as a couple in love. The complaint says Baldoni, quote, dragged his lips from her ear and down to her neck as he said, "It smells so good." Baldoni's representatives say that the tape proves it didn't happen.
I'm probably getting spray tan on you. It smells good. Well, it's not that. It's my body makeup.
Lively's legal team firing back in a statement, quote, Justin Baldoni and his lawyer may hope that this latest stunt will get ahead of the damaging evidence against him, but the video itself is damning. Lively's representatives say that the footage corroborates her account of what happened, arguing that it shows Baldoni, quote, attempting to kiss her, kissing her forehead, rubbing his face and mouth against her neck, flicking her lip with his thumb, caressing her, telling her how good she smells, and talking with her out of character, adding that no woman should have to take defensive measures to avoid being touched by their employer without their consent. The newly released videos follow a lawsuit filed last week by Baldoni against Lively, her PR team, and husband Ryan Reynolds for defamation and extortion. Lively's legal team calling the lawsuit another chapter in the abuser playbook. A bitter battle where both sides believe the same scene tells a very different story.
Are you going to sue Blake Lively too?
Into oblivion.
Megan. Wait till you see this lawsuit.
Oh boy. Well, for what?
I'm just going to tell you, you're going to have to wait and see. It's coming up soon, but it's all going to be based on evidence. It's not going to be just a lawsuit. It's going to be the kind of lawsuit that is full of evidence, admissions, documents, which prove exactly what she did and how she bullied her way through the process to take over the movie and used her PR people to try and destroy Justin. And that's what it's going to be, essentially about. But there will be a number of causes of action. There's a number of different defendants here. Stephanie Jones will be all over this complaint. That is the PR agent who was supposed to be working for Justin Baldoni. There's Leslie Sloan, who's another PR agent who will be part of this lawsuit. That was Blake Lively's. Blake Lively will be sued. And we're carefully considering other people that will be sued also. And some of them will come as a surprise. Ryan Reynolds, for sure.
We have a clip where his character Deadpool, which is very popular in this movie, acts more like the Justin Baldoni that I said turned me off with the I'm against toxic masculinity. And there's a question about whether he was taking a shot at Justin. Here's the clip.
Sorry about that. Come here, girl.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Deadpool. And I guess you're Deadpool too. But in here, everybody calls me Nice Pool. Oh my goodness, wait till you see Lady Pool. She is gorgeous. She just had a baby too, and can't even tell.
I don't think you're supposed to say that.
That's okay. I identify as a feminist. Right.
What do you make of that?
What I make of that is that if your wife is sexually harassed, you don't make fun of Justin Baldoni. You don't make fun of the situation. You take it very seriously. You file HR complaints. You raise the issue, and you follow a legal process. What you don't do is mock the person and turn it into a joke. There's no question it relates to Justin. I mean, anybody that can watch that, the hair bun, the comment about the pregnancy. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's being done. But again, if somebody is seriously sexually harassed, you don't make fun of it. It's a serious issue. For the first time at the premiere, you find out that Blake Lively tells people that all of a sudden he wrote a scene in the movie. I mean, shocking everybody, shocking Sony, shocking the production staff. It's the first time they're hearing it. And, Justin handles that really, really well and doesn't want to say she's a liar, or doesn't want to say that's inappropriate, or doesn't want to say that's part of someone else's job. And he treats her very well about that. But what Ryan Reynolds, has seemingly done, right, is used his power and influence to not only help Blake Lively take over this movie, but, he's used it, on Deadpool and to make fun of Justin Baldoni.
Another thing worth pointing out, especially for the men, the line between sex play and allegations is non-existent. This whole Shannon situation kinda reminds you of Trevor Bauer, a successful MLB star, meets a woman, and the same script follows: rough sex play, leaving scars, accused of assault and battery, before man even blinked, entire career gone. Then she comes on television and goes, "So you people can't even take jokes these days?"
But at the end of the day, there was nothing about a setup with violence and all of this stuff and getting financial gain. It was strictly, a 25 or however old I was at the time, girl trying to get attention from those things and phrasing it in a sarcastic way before we met.
Okay, so I've got a couple other questions on that. So you said in court that he sexually assaulted you on 2 different encounters, and you say the first time that you say he choked you unconscious. Clearly, the insinuation is you didn't like it, because now you're calling it an assault. But why did you make the drive back to L.A. to meet back up with him a second time if this man had just assaulted you by your own account?
I think that's a really good question. How I phrased it and how I in the past is that I was so embarrassed by the first encounter that I felt something, deep in me to go and take the power back and to be better and to be what he wanted in a sense. And so I don't know. There's been a lot of, through all the processes, witness experts on the psychology of what happens when you are assaulted, XYZ. But there was something in me that felt like I needed to make it better in a sense.
The Cy Young Award winner appears to be exiled from Major League Baseball following multiple sexual assault allegations. But in a video online, Trevor Bauer is asking what more can he do to prove he's innocent now that one of his accusers is facing serious jail time for extortion and fraud. A woman who accused former Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer of sexual assault has been charged with fraud in Arizona. A grand jury indictment unsealed Monday accuses Darcy Adana Esmonu of fraud and theft by extortion against Bauer and another man. Esmonu sued Bauer, saying he raped her and got her pregnant in 2020. Bauer says she demanded money to terminate the pregnancy, but later said she had a miscarriage. Bauer posted a 5-minute video on YouTube responding to the indictment and addressing allegations at large for the first time in months.
Here's the thing, she never had an abortion because she was never even pregnant, and that's corroborated by her own medical records. When I refused to pay her the $3.6 million she was asking for, she made up a bogus sexual assault claim and filed a civil suit against me.
In the countersuit, Bauer's lawyers claim she took the money for the abortion and went to Philadelphia to get LASIK eye surgery. Esmonu is not the same woman who accused Bauer of assault in 2021, leading to his 194-game suspension and apparent exile from the MLB just months after signing one of the largest contracts in baseball history with the Dodgers. That accuser, Lindsey Hill, and Bauer settled last year without any payments between the two. Bauer was never arrested or charged.
At this point, I'm not sure what else I can possibly do to prove my innocence in all this. I did not do what I was accused of. And every institution that our society is entrusted to rule on issues like these, like courts, judges, law enforcement officers, prosecutors, they all agree with me. They've rejected every single claim made against me, even going as far as charging one of my accusers with a felony. At what point do I get to go back to work and continue earning a living?
Yeah, I just for sure wanted to communicate that I never want to be punched and hit super hard, just because I'm going through what I am going through right now. And you know me, I'm not good at communicating, and I just never said that I wanted to be punched or anything like that. So I just you've been asking me a ton to communicate and let you in, and I want to do that. So it's super hard for me to say these things, and I know for you too, it's hard, but I just had to clearly communicate that to you, just because of where it ended and the hospital and having to hide it and not be at work. And so it does feel better to talk about it, like I said, because I don't want it to be something where we don't get to still be friends or do whatever because of it,
Yeah, I'll never, obviously having clear communication about things now is good. I thought that we were, that we communicated. Obviously, I know now that there's some miscommunication there, and but it'll never happen again. I don't want you to be afraid to be around me, or and if there's anything I can do to help you, you mentioned missing work, I want to make sure that you're okay. Honestly, if I can help, please, is there something I can do?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just trying to understand and not even being a bitch at all, but it's more of just I'm inexperienced with all this stuff, and so it's because remember after the first time I was oh, is this a normal response? I know nothing about rough sex or anything like that. So do you how could you think that like that it's okay, you know, to like punch and like hit that hard, like, you know, to where bruises are, and like I'm just kind of trying to understand, like, do you think that's okay, like, or like how could you think that's okay if you know, like, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I understand. Like, I was under the impression that you would like had rough sex before because you had said that it was like kind of your way of escaping. So like it's like had I should have like clarified that and talked to you more about it and like really gotten on the same page with you about that. Like it's never like rough sex is never about like my like fantasy or my wishes. You know, it's all about trying to. For me, it's all about the other person, like trying to, like, you know, give them what, like, I don't know exactly how to like phrase it.
I get it.
There were two detectives sitting next to her. Actually, like she said, they were writing down questions for suggesting things to ask them. And I mean, you could find clips all over the place that are significant, but this one seemed to show why the civil case that was pending was potentially a lot more complicated than the criminal case, and that he is the one who initiated the civil case and sued her for defamation and was really taking the stance of, you know, this is made up. This is totally untrue. These allegations are untrue. You know, she was never punched, etc. But here in this phone call, she's going over some of those details and he's not denying it. And he seems to be affirming it. So, of course, her lawyers would see this as the key evidence, a key defense against his defamation claims, and then also perhaps key to her own claims of sexual battery. But of course, her lawyers, or his lawyers, say that the position he was in at the time, they even he took a deposition and he told her lawyers something about how there's things that he would say differently now if he could in that conversation, if he knew that it was going to be kind of held against him like this. But he didn't feel that it was time or the place to litigate every point that she was bringing up. But he said that he was actually on the Dodgers team bus at the time of the call, so he didn't want to push back too much on what she was saying.
Former Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer is speaking out after settling a lawsuit with a woman who accused him of sexual assault. Bauer released this video today claiming that he has evidence his accuser set him up and was trying to take his money.
Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsey Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another, in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then, after the first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response. But how is she going to do that? Need daddy to choke me out, she said. Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million, read another text. Then, after the second time we met, former Padres pitcher Jacob Nix told her, you got to get this bag. I'll give you 50,000, Lindsey replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, do you feel a tiny bit guilty? Not really, she replied. Since then, her legal team has approached me multiple times about coming to a financial settlement. But as I have done since day one, I refuse to pay her even a single cent. In August of 2021, Lindsey Hill's claims were heard in court. And during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsey Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world, or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us. After hearing the evidence available to her, Judge Diana Gold-Saltman found that Lindsey Hill had misled the court. She found her claims to be materially misleading. She denied her request for a domestic violence restraining order, and she found that no sexual assault or non-consensual conduct took place. Now, some of you might not know about restraining order hearings. I know I didn't, but I've since learned that it's extremely rare for a request for a restraining order to be denied because the standard of proof that you need to obtain one is extremely low. So you can make of that what you will. The fact is, I was never arrested. I was never charged with a crime, and I won the only legal proceeding that took place without my side of the story even being heard. And most importantly, as I've said from day one, I never sexually assaulted Lindsay Hill, or anyone else for that matter. So I sued her, which prompted her to countersue me. Quite frankly, regardless of the outcome in court, I've paid significantly more in legal fees than Lindsay Hill could ever pay me in her entire life. And I knew that would be the case going in. But the lawsuit was never about the money for me. It was the only way for me to obtain critical information to clear my name. The discovery process in that lawsuit recently concluded, at which point Lindsay Hill's legal team again came to us with another proposal to resolve the case. This time, however, they weren't seeking any money from me. Having received much of the information that had been hidden from us, a small portion of which I've referenced here, I was willing to agree to the terms proposed. Both parties would drop their respective lawsuits, and neither of us would pay either side any money. I also retained my right to speak publicly about the case, something I have not been at liberty to do since June of 2021. So, as of today, both lawsuits have been settled. Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting, but hopefully this is the last time I have to do so, as I'd prefer to just remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
He had a famous baseball player, his name's Trevor Bauer.
Okay.
He was accused, what happened was a girl that he had sex with, what he said, he punched her during sex and that it was consensual, but this girl said that it went too far and she went to the police. And there's actually three other girls that made similar allegations against this guy.
Okay.
Well, 2 years later, it comes out that they both dropped their lawsuits against each other, and now that they're allowed to publicly speak about it. Well, Trevor went viral for calling this girl out. Little did he know that she's been in my DMs DMing me, the girl that did the things. Yeah, Kiara, she's been in the DMs. Sometimes it goes down in the DMs.
Kiara, tell him to be careful, because he thinks that's like, oh, this hot girl's in my DMs.
That's what I'm gonna say that as soon as he's done with his little spiel. Go ahead.
Thank you. My bad.
So she's in my DM. No, Kiara, I want you to just cut me a new one or rip me a new one, whatever the saying is. Because then I had her on my show and I totally simped out and I didn't call her out. I didn't.
Oh.
So let's watch the clip and then I want to get your instant reaction.
Yeah.
All right, let's play it. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. How are you doing, Alex?
Doing better now, Lindsay, now that you're here. Wow, you're very gorgeous. And text messages are bad, though. Lindsay, you keep bringing the text, and I don't even want to, totally kill you on these texts, but as a person that, listen, these texts, let's look at right here. What does that mean? Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. That's text one. That's kind of bad, Lindsay. What is that? I mean, I know you're saying this is no context, and I'm sure you're being sarcastic. I'm guessing. I mean, but what the hell does that mean, next victim? Okay, so what hurts your feelings the most? When they call you Lindsay Smollett or when they call you Kobe Bryant's accuser? Which one do you piss you off the most?
Oh my gosh. I mean, like I said, I have always, and it's got me in a lot of trouble, my coping with humor skills. That's what gets me through. So Smollett's a pretty gnarly one.
I know, the Smollett one's good. I kind of like the Smollett. Okay, so now you had the courage to come on. That makes you think that you're telling the truth more than all these people that are calling you a liar. So the last thing I want to say is, do you have an OnlyFans by chance? I would love to join it because I don't know if you have one.
Unfortunately, no OnlyFans. I can only imagine how that would have played out for me with all of this. So I'm so sorry about
You might want to join one real quick. I could get you going. I think we could get, it's got 60 million hits. If we put that OnlyFans link underneath that tweet, you're going to be rich, bitch. And I mean that. And we really want to keep you in our thoughts and prayers. And if you do decide to make an OnlyFans, make sure to text
I said
that
keep
link.
her in my thoughts and prayers. Why did you let me say that?
Do you think I wasn't in your ear the whole time? I literally was saying, stop simping for her. And you're like, no, she's so hot. Oh, my God. I've never had a hot girl talk to me.
So she's supposedly a lying whore, Kiara. What should I have said to her?
Bitch, get out.
Damn it, Jimmy! Kiara knows what to say.
You should have laid in on her. Like, she fucking lied on this guy. She's gonna get you. You're next.
Joining me now to discuss that is Bauer's accuser herself, Lindsay Hill. Lindsay, I mentioned Bauer's video in which he provided some receipts that I'm going to be honest with you. make you look like a clout chaser, or I know some people are calling you a cleat chaser because admittedly you were chasing after several high-profile, wealthy baseball players. Trevor says everything was completely consensual. He also released these text messages that came out in court indicating that you had planned the whole thing out. So I want to read some of these texts from you to a friend between the two of you before you met Trevor, this one. Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. Okay. Victim is an interesting choice of words. I'm going to allow you a chance to explain yourself. But after you agreed to meet, you asked your friend what you should steal. Your friend answered his money. He says, another one from you to a friend, I'm going to his house Wednesday. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. With a screenshot in which you told him, tryouts don't scare me, Bauer. Pick a day and I am there. Here are some more after you and Trevor met up. Net worth is $51 million, to which your friend responds, bitch, you better secure that bag. Your text, need daddy to choke me out, being an absolute whore to try to get in on his $51 million. You say this wasn't a setup. How can you expect anyone to believe that?
That's a great question. I really appreciate you having me on to even have this conversation. Obviously, there's a lot going on around this, so I really appreciate people who are asking questions about it. The first thing I want to say is, I think that Trevor did this intentionally with the text messages and how he framed this video. There's several things in it that are not correct. And I just want to start out by saying, it's so valid for people to question those text messages. But the root of the problem here is that he is presenting this as one conversation, when in reality he had thousands of messages to choose from, took those, made it look sequential, which it was not. There is no combined screenshot of those things going on one after the other. And as I said last night as well, there's no text message that ever exists. Otherwise he would have, put it out there, combining, anything about a setup through rough sex, finances all in one. Those were handpicked, and they were from multiple different conversations all before we met up. And I think that the video in general doesn't even talk about what actually happened between us two, which is what would have come out during a jury trial. These were all messages that happened before. And then of course the video is so valid as well for people to ask questions about. But I do think that video was entirely misleading. He also references the restraining order hearing, which people also have questions about. He says that he was cleared of any wrongdoing, which is actually incorrect. In our civil case, the judge had actually ruled that he had not been cleared of any wrongdoing, and that was a federal court judge. So I want to get to the domestic violence restraining order hearing as well, but so you're saying that it's misleading because you're admitting that you did talk about rough sex and wanting rough sex. You did talk about him needing to choke you out. You did talk about stealing his money, but it's misleading because he put them together in the same video as if you had said it in the same conversation when in fact it was separate conversations, correct? That's why it's misleading? Correct, and as well as not showing, the messages that occurred after where it discusses it strictly in the term of, being a baseball wife or something like that.
Or something like that. Okay. I'm just curious if you know, the statistical likelihood of you texting your friend premeditated texts saying you wanted him to choke you out and steal his money, take his money, and him actually choking you out, and those two things not being related.
It's a really, really valid question. And like I said, I think you would need to look through each conversation. Those were handpicked. But I can, like I said last night, completely own the fact that those were overly sarcastic, overly inappropriate to some may seem. And it does give off that impression about clout chaser and totally attention-seeking behavior. But I just feel that they have, nothing to do with what actually took place. But it does cause a lot of questions as to why I was, seeking Trevor out. But at the end of the day, there was nothing about a setup with violence and all of this stuff and getting financial gain. It was strictly, a 25 or however old I was at the time, girl trying to get attention from those things and phrasing it in a sarcastic way before we met.
Okay, so I've got a couple other questions on that. So you said in court that he sexually assaulted you on 2 different encounters, and you say the first time that you say he choked you unconscious. Clearly, the insinuation is you didn't like it because now you're calling it an assault. But why did you make the drive back to LA to meet back up with him a second time if this man had just assaulted you by your own account?
I think that's a really good question. How I phrased it and how I tried in the past is that I was so embarrassed by the first encounter that I felt something, deep in me to go and take the power back and to be better and to be what he wanted in a sense. And so I don't know. There's been a lot of, through all the processes, witness experts on the psychology of what happens when you are assaulted, XYZ. But there was something in me that felt like I needed to make it better in a sense.
Okay. But you texted Trevor before you met him, telling him you liked rough sex. Then you texted him after your first sexual encounter with him, which you now call an assault. And according to court records, you told him after that sexual encounter that you had, quote, never been more turned on in your life. That's not really something that someone says when they were just assaulted.
I think it's a super valid question. Everything you're asking me is a super valid question.
I agree. That's why I'm asking them.
Totally. And I think that I'm not, that's what expert witnesses are for in court in terms of the psychology behind that and responses to abuse and things like that. But like I said, I was just trying to make myself feel better about myself after what had happened the first time. After the first time I left without any markings on my body, my face was fine. I could go to work. And I thought that the second time, would be like the first time minus the things I told him I was not comfortable with.
Yeah. Lindsay, I think there are a lot of sexual assault survivors who would say you don't look traumatized there and you don't look beaten. And this is allegedly after you say that he brutally attacked you and you had bruises all over your body. You had bruises all over your face. I don't see any bruises there. And I certainly don't see a woman who's just been traumatized by something horrible.
Again, super valid. I think that I woke up that morning and the best way to explain that video is I hadn't seen my entire body yet. I had no idea what had happened considering, I was unconscious for most of it. I had no idea what had happened to my full body.
But if it was that severe, wouldn't you already feel pain?
To the men who are into BDSM and things of that nature, to the men who are into experimenting, to the men who've been involved in devil's threesomes, to the men who don't document consent in one way or another, you're walking a very dangerous path. Nowadays, they're turning rape, sexual assault, and assault into jokes. Today, these things that are supposed to be so heinous, so serious, these things are now being thrown around like they're jokes.